Hi, it's Sam Seder. It's Sunday afternoon. I don't generally do these live broadcasts, but this is pretty big news. And sitting here on a Sunday, I don't have the kids today, so I am processing this information. The woman who had reportedly written a letter which was sent to Dianne Feinstein, as well as a California congresswoman, sometime in July, which had detailed an encounter that she had with Brett Kavanaugh when she was in high school some 30 odd years ago, where she had claimed that he had assaulted her, that Kavanaugh and another man named Judge, who is a writer, had either followed her or pulled her into a room. Kavanaugh had attempted to, or had groped her. When she screamed, he put her hand over her mouth. This is all her allegation. And they turned up the music in the room. Now, with the new details coming out, she's come out public. She says that at that point, Judge, the other kid, both of them were very drunk. The two boys, 17-year-old boys, jumped on the both of them. She was able to get out. She ran to the bathroom, locked the door, waited about 10, 15 minutes while they left. So people did not anticipate that she would go public. Obviously, this is not something that is she hesitated to do for the past 2 or 3 months. But apparently her name was leaked. There were reporters showing up at her house. And so she thought there was a certain inevitability to this. Her name is Christine Blasey Ford. And this is the part of the story that I think is highly problematic for Kavanaugh, who at this point is on record as providing an unequivocal denial. We'll get to that in a moment. But Ford said that, this is the woman, that this has been a problem that she's dealt with in her life for some time. She said she told no one about the incident with any detail, until 2012. She was in couples therapy with her husband, apparently in anticipating that she's going to be charged with lying or making this up. She has provided the Washington Post portions of the notes from that therapist. As we've come to understand over the past, particularly with the Comey memos, the idea of someone retelling these stories either contemporaneously or significantly prior to when their allegation would be tested or relevant. Brett Kavanaugh, I think, had been on the federal judiciary for 5 or 6 years, probably. In 2012, there was no reason in 2012 to think this is a guy who was going to be nominated to the Supreme Court anytime soon. So her discussing it in therapy 6 years ago is pretty relevant as to the credibility of her claim. Subsequent to 2012, it came up again in other instances. She apparently this week took a lie detector test. For what's that worth? I mean, these things can be unreliable, I guess, and people can fake it, but it's just one more piece of evidence. And look, at issue here is not necessarily what Brett Kavanaugh was like when he was 17 years old. There's no doubt that many people have done things in their youth that they are ashamed of. What's more relevant is that Brett Kavanaugh has come out and issued a complete blanket denial. Now, when we talked about this on Friday, The second man involved, as reported by the New Yorker magazine, this guy, Judge, he had initially said to New Yorker magazine, I had no recollection of this. Subsequent to that story, he told, I think it was the Washington Standard, the Weekly Standard, excuse me, that it's absolutely just nuts. I never saw Brett act this way. He subsequently told the New York Times that Kavanaugh was a brilliant student who loved sports and not into anything crazy or illegal. Well, it turns out this guy, Judge, also wrote a memoir about his time in high school when he went with Brett Kavanaugh about being a blackout drunk. So also his credibility as to being able to assert with surety that this didn't happen, I think is definitely suspect. So really the long and short of this is not that we can know the truth of the situation at this point. Not even that if we could know that Brett Kavanaugh did something bad when he was 17 is at issue. The primary issue is if this woman is telling the truth, and it would be a very strange thing to tell your therapist 6 years ago that this guy did that to you for no reason, but your mileage may vary, I guess, if you are really determined not to buy this. But what's more relevant is that Kavanaugh has unequivocally denied it. That would be a lie, of course. There's other instances where Kavanaugh has clearly lied in the course of this hearing, none of which seem to rise to the level of getting the Republicans to slow this process down. However, Lisa Murkowski, Republican senator from Alaska, Susan Collins, Republican senator from Maine, it would be stunning if they did not call for this process to be slowed down, and they have every ability to do so. Their votes are determinant, and if they don't, they're going to have a real problem on their hands, I think, with their constituency and the reputations that they try and cultivate in the Senate, because this would be beyond the pale. You need to examine this stuff, and to simply not have the committee have a hearing on this at this point seems almost impossible. But yes, stranger things have happened. One other story reporting that came out today, Doug Jones in Alabama made a comment that Brett Kavanaugh is not nearly as popular as one might think in this red state. So this could be a nomination in Jeopardy. I guess we'll see. We'll see you live Monday at noon. Bye.